Welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world. Welcome back, Compassionators, to another episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. Mark.
Oh, Amy, we just had such a wonderful conversation with Jenn Smith, didn't we? That's the previous episode. Folks, if you haven't listened to that, it would serve you well to go back and listen to that, maybe repeatedly. Put it on repeat for the week, just to get the core of her heart-based career directions. Having a heart-based career. There's so many great comments, great thoughts that she had. Amy, what were your big picture takeaways from our conversation with Jenn?
Yeah, there were so many, Mark, but I want to kind of zoom out a little bit, because when I reflected on our conversation and the incredible work that she's doing, it brought to mind a really powerful quote that I think really spotlights and encapsulates what the important work that Jenn is doing. Oprah Winfrey, it's a quote from her. She said, "There is no greater gift you can give or receive than to honor your calling. It's why you were born and how you become most truly alive." And the incredible work that Jenn Smith is doing helps people find this. And again, if you haven't heard the podcast, please go back and listen to it. One of the things that jumped out at me, Mark, were the questions. There were critical questions. There was a moment in her career where her manager said, "What do you want to do with your career?" She actually had a skip level. She had a skip level meeting. So her manager's manager had a meeting with her and said, "What do you want to do with your career?" And I think that in our life, if we're not stopping and reflecting and asking critical questions, the path I'm on, is this where I want to be? What I'm doing, is it lighting me up? Reflecting, going back, doing assessments on ourselves. This is how we're starting with compassion, right? In one of our episodes previously, I believe it was the burnout episode with Rebecca Ali, we talk about warning signals.
Yeah.
Throughout Jenn's conversation, there were warning signals, things of, how do you know when you're on the wrong path? You're resentful at work. You're frustrated at work. Things aren't flowing well. You're not feeling well, right? These are warning signals. So these are some of the things that jumped out. Mark, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, one of the items that jumped out to me was the energy level. That's a symptom, as you were just talking about, that if your energy level at work, or the resentment you start feeling at work over just little items, that's an indicator you're not on the right path. And it resonated with me because 25 plus years ago, I felt some of that in my career. And I had in my mind, I'm on this career path. I have to stay on this career path. I wish I'd had somebody like Jenn in that moment, or maybe even Jenn's leader, who said to her, "What do you want to do with your career? Where do you want to go? How are you feeling about where you are now?" I loved how she said that she encourages people to take a 90 days assessment. Every 90 days, just assess, am I going the direction that's bringing me the energy that I feel like I am bringing what's in my heart to the world? That was another item that jumped out to me that she said, is put what is in your heart into the world. We all have different things in our heart, or different contributions that we can make. We need to be intentional about putting those out there. Mm-hmm. And I loved her thought. that sometimes this doesn't have to be a huge career change. Sometimes just a little shift in environment that you will feel that energy, but that change of energy will make it so you don't dread getting up to go to work every day.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, her storytelling when she talked about um, the two examples
Yeah.
of people that she'd worked with, and the gentleman that two of his values were quiet and calm, and he worked in an office that was everything but. And that was really powerful. Of if you're working in an environment that isn't in alignment with your values, don't dismiss that. That's not It's not being nice to yourself, right? And I think so much of us, like what you just spoke about, Mark, we plow forward, we don't question, we dismiss how we're feeling. And that's not what this is about. We have one life to live, folks, right? And so let's make it right. Let's get it right. And I love how Jenn, and you'll all hear this. Hopefully, you've all heard this already when you listen to the podcast. But I heard one stop shop. She's got it all. She has so many tips and tricks and experience through her 15 years of experience that from beginning to end, she can walk you through it, even as a recruiter, to help you. Hold on, I'm going from the path I'm on now to a different path. How am I going to create a resume that aligns? And because of her experience, she can help you with that. That's powerful, right?
And while it's a one-stop shop, it's not a cookie cutter either. It's
Mm-hmm.
not everybody has to take this path. It's you're choosing your own adventure. It's you're choosing the path that you need to be on. Her illustration of the sales professional who was in the environment that was super loud, and he had some values around calm and quiet. It also makes me think there were people in that office that thrived in that environment. They thrived in the noise and the chaos and the loud. That was good for them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. But it's
Mm-hmm.
also okay for someone to thrive in a quieter environment. And so don't feel like, well, I'm a sales professional. This is what the sales environment's like. I need to just live with it. I just need to put up with this. I need to set aside that value that I have and plow ahead, because that's, I think, what leads us to burnout, and it leads to that disconnect in our hearts between what we value and what we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Because you don't have to change industries necessarily. Maybe that is the right move. It was for me at one point in my career, and that put me on the path where I am now. But that's not necessarily everybody has to change careers. Maybe you just have to change the environment that you're in
Mm-hmm.
and stay on the path that you're on, but with a little different environment, a different company, a different industry, or just can you make some changes within your own organization that will help you to connect with the values so you have that heart-centered career.
And I think, taking the time, as she talks about, taking the time to reflect on, look at the past month. What are the things that I've been doing that lights me up inside? What am I getting excited about? What am I not getting excited about? I want to share a little story. Years ago, I was in outside sales. I had account. My account was the Los Angeles Unified School District. Now, I lived in San Diego. 3 days a week, I drove to LA in a stick shift. And then once I got to LA, I had to drive around to the different elementary schools and meet with the principals and teachers and all that. And then I'd have to drive home that night
In a stick shift.
in a stick shift. And I was angry. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was making money that I'd never made before. I mean, I loved it. There was a whole, like, My ego was being fed and my bank account was being fed, but my heart was empty. And what ended up happening is I got 3 bulging discs in my neck, 3 bulging discs in my lower part of my spine, and 4 herniated discs behind my heart. And I lost the use of my right arm for 3 months.
Yeah.
I because I didn't listen.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm saying these warning signals, these indicators, these don't, if you're unhappy, if you're dissatisfied, if there's an absence of content, being I don't know if contentness is a word, but can it be just for right now? If there's an absence of contentness within you, then please honor that, hear that, and then think, you don't have to make an action now, but sitting down and thinking, okay, why?
Yeah.
What is it? And what might better look like, right?
Yeah. And you used contentness or contentment maybe is
Contentment.
the
Let's call it
actual
that.
word. I'm not trying to dictionary correct you here, but
Do it.
I loved how Jen used the word energy. Where is your energy? And is it positive or negative energy in your life? I think back to times where I believe I was in a role that was not connecting to my values, and I had a lot more negative energy than positive energy. And that's
Mhm.
where I felt it. It didn't turn into huge health problems for me like it did for you. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm sorry for your experience on that. But I could feel it. It was an energy drain every day.
Mhm.
And if somebody had told me at that time, you're feeling that energy drain, you're feeling that negativity in your life, not because the company you're with is bad and not because the position you're in is bad, but it's not necessarily aligned with your values, and had me take that step back to see where my values were, I probably would have gotten to what I'm doing now a little quicker.
Mhm.
Because I feel like I have for the last 20 years been aligned with my values and the work that I'm doing. I also appreciate that you brought up money, and that in that position you were in, you were making more money than you had before. You were making really good money. I think there have been times in my life, and I fear this happens for other people, where they chase a career path based on the income. And I have to get this income, so I have to do this to get that income. And I'm not suggesting that we all go out and work for nonprofits, that we go out and don't make any money at what we're doing. We need to sustain our lives. We need to sustain our families. We need to sustain those around us. We need to be able to give back to the community. But if you follow your passion, I think the money will be there.
Mhm.
That there's always a path that provides you the lifestyle and the living that you need, that is still connected to your values, to who you are, and what you can contribute to the world.
Such an important point. Such an important point, Mark. I want to go back to what you said prior to that too, and I want to really spotlight that. And that is, if the work you're doing or where you're doing it isn't, you have a thought that maybe it's not right, it's not good or bad. It's
Yeah.
just not right. It may not be right for you. We
Right.
don't need to go into judgment, right? We don't need to go into a judgmental, we don't need to vilify anything here. It's just saying, I don't know if anybody, when you eat food, like some food just doesn't digest well. There's just some food that people are like, you know what? It just doesn't work well with me. Or there's certain things that we smell and we're like, oh, or certain things that we hear, nails on a chalkboard. There are just some things that don't resonate with us. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? Right?
Yeah. And it's okay. I think there were times in my career where I thought, well, but if I change paths, if I change tracks now, it means I was on the wrong track and I've failed.
Oh.
And it's not, I don't think that's necessarily true. Looking back, if I could talk to my younger self, I would say it's okay. It's okay
Yeah.
to make that shift. I think there are times that we have value changes or value expansions in our life where different topics, different values become more important to us. And we need to remain connected to those. And it's okay to take what you've been doing, not as a failure, but as, oh, I've learned this from that. And I've learned that that's not the food that tastes good to me, or that's not the food that digests well for me. And so I can leave that behind and move forward and provide more value to the world while still giving myself greater compassion.
Yes. Yes. And I want to go back to the beginning of her story when she talked about she's 17 years old, right? Or no, she was actually just out of college. So she
Right.
started college when she was 17, but just out of college. She's working at a potato factory. She's an operations manager on the floor, working a graveyard shift, right? But when she talked about, sorry, I'm not doing very good at making my point here. I'm losing it. But the essence of that experience is buildable. It wasn't a mistake, right? It wasn't a mistake that she was there. Even though when she realized she wanted to go to HR, even when she realized she wanted to go to HR and that HR team said no, she doubled down and said, but I know this is what I want and I can continue, I can go find it somewhere else, right? If this isn't my place, but I know that's my passion. But I really want to, I'm trying to go back to the piece that you were saying of it. If I want to change my path, it doesn't mean it was a failure. What a great experience you have. What a great foundation. And for you to be able to build on top of that. And one last point. I think, at least in America, we put too much pressure on kids as they're coming out of high school to make a major decision. What's your major going to be, right? They get out of college. What are you going to do? I believe we need to turn the volume down on that pressure of saying you have to have all the answers right now when you're still learning about yourself and the world. Thank you for letting me make that last point.
No, I think it's a fantastic point, of course. And the thought came to me that it would have been really easy for Jen in her situation when they said, no, you can't make this shift over into HR from operations, to say, well, okay, I guess maybe that's not the right path for me. But she moved forward with confidence because she had identified how that connects with her values. And that to me was a really important step in what she was saying, that once we understand what our values are, we can move forward with greater confidence, greater energy. I keep coming back to that word, and greater effort around, well, this is what I need to do then. This is the path that I need to shift over to. But if we don't know what those values are and how that can connect into a career, it's hard to make that shift. It's hard to step forward with that confidence. And that ties to what you were saying about, you come out of college, you make your decision on what your career is going to be like, you define your path, you make all those steps, you line them all out, and then you have to follow this path. Well, I did that. I got on that path, and I got partway down that path and went, this isn't a good path for me.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody said, okay, you can shift paths. And it took me a while to get to that point where I could make that shift. And that connection to our values, I think, just helps us define that path. And it might be a winding path too, throughout our career. But if we follow or we connect it to our values, then we'll always have the passion and the energy that we need for the work that we're doing, which also opens us up to infuse compassion into the world and to other people.
That's right. That's right. The bottom line is when we are doing the things that lights us up, we show up as our best,
Yeah.
right? We do our best work. And, taking that time to find your true north, what that is, and then investing in that. Mark, do you have anything else that you want to share? Because I
was just thinking, I think this brings us to a good full circle on this point. And just another shout out to Jenn Smith, fantastic guest, fantastic work that she's doing. We've got her links in the show notes for this episode as well as the last episode. And so go check her out and check out the work that she's doing, particularly if you're feeling a little misaligned between the career path you're on and your values. Check out what Jenn's doing. I think it can help.
Yes, and I also want to add, we mentioned it in Jenn's podcast. I want to mention it here. If you're struggling to let go of the past, check out Brave Women at Work, Lessons in Letting Go. It is part of an anthology series. It's the 4th book in an anthology series. And Jenn is the opening chapter. Mine is the closing chapter. As Jenn and Mark have both said beautifully, we're bookends, and there's incredible chapters all the way through. So check out that book. Folks, Compassionators, thank you so much for showing up again. And we'll see you on our next episode. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other Compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.